Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unqualified Film Bros podcast. Ben and George coming at you tonight. We are talking about, for the first time, even though we probably should have done an episode on Poor Things, we are talking about a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, Kinds of Kindness, Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, Jesse Plemons, Margaret Qualley. This is Hong Chow. This is an awesome movie in terms of the cast and how stacked it is. And then we get into the actual story and the filmmaking of it, and it's just wow. So, Benny, to your thoughts.
Man, this is a weird one. It's very surreal. Um, it's an extremely odd movie, especially like starting out. And then you sort of get the gist of people's relationships and their current situations, which are their own thing. I mean, this is such a weird movie to talk about. There's three different parts, and they all sort of deal with the same thing, which is relationships, pretty much. And what you sacrifice, what you give. Um, there's certainly a lot of like similarities between the stories, um, even including the actors themselves. It's yeah, I don't I mean, what do you think? What do you,
Um, yeah, Yorgos is one of the most, shall we say, unique filmmakers working right now.
yeah.
This is the fourth of his films that I've seen, after The Favorite, Poor Things. No, it's only the third because I haven't seen The Lobster yet. Um,
It's also the killing of a sacred deer.
I haven't seen it. Um, so this is the third of his films that I've seen, and I'm starting to notice a pattern of absurdist dark comedy
Oh yeah, I
where
mean
you can
that's
you can
always been.
almost you can almost go in knowing what to expect in a sort of general sense of, okay, absurdist dark comedy, but what does that mean in this particular case? And I feel like with a film like this, compared with, say, Poor Things, is you've seen Poor Things, right?
Yes.
Okay. I figured you had. I just double checking. This film, at least its core story elements feel a lot more grounded than Poor Things. Again, with Poor Things, you had the almost Victorian futurism of the production design. It was really, really stylized with the fisheye lens and the use of black and white versus color. This film
Hmm.
is much more standard filmic practice in terms of shot construction,
I,
production design.
I wouldn't say it's
Um,
standard though. I mean, the way that it's shot is kind of
it
weird. I don't know how to explain it. It's
the film itself is not standard, but it is much closer to traditional filmmaking than something like Poor Things, is what I was saying.
I
While
guess
not being
it's
100% normal.
I mean, I guess it's closer, but it's still it's shot in strange ways. Like a lot of the scenes of like the dream sequences where they have dreams. There's also like this thing where the camera sort of follows these people, especially in that first scene where he has to walk in a few times, or not the first scene, but one of the first scenes.
In the first short feature, the first
Yeah, where he
part.
has to sit down and then stand up. Uh, I really don't think I've had enough time to digest this. I only saw this a few days ago. Um, but it's definitely one of those ones where I need to go back and rewatch it because there are some very interesting foreshadowing moments. There's some interesting like setup, and even though it's three different parts, it kind of operates on the same. idea. And also, it happens to end with two car crashes. One of them intending to kill someone doesn't hit him hard enough, and then the movie ends with her accidentally killing this thing that will get her back. She thinks into the fancy cult. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of like motifs that keep popping up too, like details. Obviously, the dream sequences, but they're very transactional. A lot of things, and the details matter. Obviously, it's like dressing. It's you have to eat this. You have to drink your juice at this time. Um, and also when she's weighing and measuring the woman at the end, and in the middle one, it's all the details that like, oh, she eats chocolate cake now, she does this, she does that, even though she looks identical.
Yeah, the middle part feels a lot less rigid in its rules than the first and third film parts, where we sort of get this looser sense of the relationship than we have in the first and third films, or parts, excuse me. I'm going to keep calling them films because each 50-minute piece feels like its own film. They're all attached and it's 2 hours, 45 minutes, but they each feel like their own individual piece. Anyway, I digress. What we see
I
in the
mean,
middle part, what was that?
I was just gonna say like they're different stories, but they feel very similar, especially in their surrealist nature,
Yeah,
uh, and also the fact that there's always these like power dynamics. It's like she comes back after starving. I still don't know what the hell happened in that ending. Um,
in the second part.
yeah,
Yeah, I was not expecting another Emma Stone to show up. I was not expecting Jesse Plemons' character to be validated and be correct in that it was an imposter version of his wife. It was
yeah.
that I would almost call it a twist ending where it
I mean,
it was certainly
uh,
unexpected.
yeah. These are not movies you meant to like think about as this actually happened, though. Even from the naming conventions, it's RMF. Um, that's all it ever is. And he sort of shows up in like weird scenarios and stuff. I just haven't been able to figure out this movie very well. I've gotten that RMF probably stands for Robert Fletcher, um, as in like Robert Fletcher is the guy that he hits, and he's also Robert Fletcher, as I understand it. That's the only thing I can think of. They don't explain RMF, but
They don't really have to. Nothing's
no.
missing in my perception of the film. Nothing's missing for me not interpreting that.
Well, it's definitely important to the film, though. Everything's named. RMF dies, or the death of RMF. RMF flies, and then I can't remember the last one.
Is the third one RMF eats a sandwich? Because that's how it
Yes,
certainly
RMF
ends.
eats a sandwich.
Yes. So
I
let's.
just, I just have no idea. It's really interesting to watch, though. It's been a while since I've seen a really surrealist film in actual theaters, at least. I mean, to get this type of budget.
Did you see Poor Things in a theater or on streaming?
I saw it on streaming, I think.
Oh man, the cinematography of that film on the big screen is just sublime. You
Well,
missed out.
I have a theater, so
Yeah, but your theater is not Cinemark or AMC or Regal.
now it's better since they actually don't have loud people.
Fair. Um, Yeah, I agree that seeing something this surreal in a theater, I'm not going to say this is what makes going to the movies worth it, because there are a lot of films that I could say that about. But certainly to see something so artistically creative from someone who is so artistically inclined with performers that, and we'll get into the performances in a second here, but with actors that are so committed to the quality of the product and elevating the quality of the product, it enhances the movie going experience for me. And I think for both of us.
Yeah. I mean, it's more just I'm glad that it's at least getting he's still getting his budgets and stuff because David Lynch can't get his stuff uh, funded. So, but
Yeah, David
this really
Lynch.
does remind me. I mean, there have always been like the surrealist guy. David Lynch was certainly one of them. And he definitely sort of follows that, especially his use of like dreams and stuff. That was one of David Lynch's favorite things. Uh, and also the idea that not everything makes sense. Sometimes in surrealism, it's just weird because they're designed to be filmed like it's a dream, you know?
Yeah, I think in that first piece where we see the dream sequence play out in black and white, and then
Mhm.
the next scene is the same as the dream, but Jesse Plemons' character knows how to better approach it because he's had this almost premonition dream.
Hmm.
Uh, and then we see it in color when it actually plays out. I think stylistically, from a filmmaking perspective, that's a really, really smart choice, not only to differentiate to the average viewer, this is a dream, this is really happening, but also the sort of light bulb in Jesse Plemons' character head going on, where he has the experience now of something that didn't go well for him in the black and white sphere
Hmm.
that he can now have better control over in a more aesthetic, visually pleasing space. And I like the way that the dream sequences are used almost as a way of indicating both to the character and to the viewer what's going to happen next. And even though we know it's coming, not so much in the first one because we hadn't seen that idea yet, but
Hmm.
in the third piece with Emma Stone's character and the dream that she has, um, we're really presented with the idea that these characters, or the idea that we're going to see these characters in the same situation multiple times, and there's going to be a different outcome, and that's really really fun as a
Hmm.
viewer.
But that the dreams also have sort of an impact on the
Right.
story.
And having had the dream before the actual event, in both cases that we've talked about,
Hmm.
impacts the course of events as they play out in the narrative of the actual story versus the dream.
Yeah.
And giving the characters sort of that turn of where they give themselves the advantage in the situation, almost partially we can say leads to their, or not leads to their downfall per se, but impacts their decisions so that they're so far and so deep into their own heads that the way the circumstances play out often in these two cases aren't ideal for them, aren't what they wanted to get out of that situation, even before they had the dream.
I think it's always also with dream scenarios, sometimes you can't change the outcome. And the more you try to change it, the worse it'll get.
Right. The path you take to avoid your fate is the one that leads you to it.
Yeah.
See that in many, many films.
Oh, it's a nice motif.
Yeah. And it works. It works very well here. It works very well in many other pieces.
It's lasted for
So,
thousands of years. So.
yeah. So let's get into the performances because I want to talk about basically all of them, but I want to start with Jesse Plemons because he gives three of the best performances we've seen this year in one film.
Yeah,
And
I
his
mean, I would say
characters are
it's
so they're so different, they're so well put together and so individualized that after watching the first film, going into the second one, where he's the lead both times, it's not like we're seeing, oh, this is the same guy. No, there's such a switch in his performance. There's such a switch in the story and the narrative that immediately you know he's someone else. And that takes a lot of skill as a performer.
Yeah. I mean, it, the performances are good. I feel like they all feel kind of weird. They're unnatural performances. Everyone sort of speaks unnaturally in the film. It's a weird
That's
thing.
that's something I get from a lot of the dialogue in Yorgos's pieces. Like even with something like The Favorite, and I haven't seen The Favorite in probably 5 years.
Hmm.
Um, what we get from Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, and Rachel Weisz are three really, really strong performances. But the dialogue is so twisted, isn't the right word for it, but just enough off the mark, just
It's off
out there enough,
it's off kilter.
off
That's what
kilter. That's a good way of putting it. That it's like this film and like Poor Things. It's noticeable the screenplay and it's thank you, but the taking of the project off kilter, led by the dialogue. We can
you're.
talk about the stylization and the visuals and all that, but when the script is presented in such a way where the words that are being said are so unique, I feel like I'm using that word a lot to describe what Yorgos does with his films.
Mhm.
It really takes these projects into such a different direction than anything else that we see. And playing into what you said about Yorgos being this absurdist filmmaker in the current canon of these mainstream artists, it's I'm gonna say unique again because it's just so damn fresh.
Yeah, no, it really does remind me of David Lynch, especially this film. And even going back to I'm sure you had to watch it since you studied film. You must have watched Meshes of the Afternoon.
I did not. They
Really?
did not ask me to watch that one. No,
You watch that? That's what a shame. Well, go watch it. It's public domain. You can find it on YouTube, I think.
I
It's
love that. I
fantastic.
love finding films on YouTube. That's where I
It's
watched a great documentary about movie posters.
it was inspired by the original absurdist surrealist guys, but it follows. It's been very influential. It follows the dream. So this woman has a dream, and it's like the actions are still happening even though she has a dream. So she goes and does something, then wakes up, and she sees that those things have actually happened. I think at one point she sees her own murder. It's been a while since I've seen it, but there definitely were scenes where it kind of reminded me of that, um, especially with all the dreams and then it sort of happening. But I don't know. Yeah, it's all the performances are really good. This is just one of those films where you should watch it. Um, it's
Yeah,
it's
it's
you
it's
can't really
certainly like, and I guess this is how I would describe Poor Things, except Poor Things is 2 hours, 20 minutes and probably could have been a buck 45.
Mhm.
This film is 2 hours, 45 minutes, but it doesn't feel that way because it is these three 50-minute chunks
Yeah.
where every start to a mini feature feels like a reset where you're walking in for the first time. So that makes it a really, really accessible watch despite its runtime, where you don't feel like 2 hours and 45 minutes pass when you're watching it. It feels like you're watching Oh, it's like you're watching a miniseries of 3 episodes that are 50 minutes long, and they all carry these through lines and these threads, story to story, these thematic elements, relationships we talked about, character development, dreams. All of these ideas are presented in each piece, but like I said before, it's like you're watching a miniseries where you're connecting all these dots, but not necessarily seeing the same thing play out each and every time. You're going to get something different. You're going to get something unique. You're going to get something fresh. And I think what I liked so much about the film, beyond its you know, higher minded ideas of threads and through lines and all of that I just talked about, is just how well constructed it is as a film, talking
Hmm.
about cinematography, visuals, costume design is huge, especially that pantsuit that Emma Stone wears in the third piece is
Oh
just
yeah.
tremendous. So perfect for that character. Everything that everyone wears, especially in the third piece with the cult and going out into the world with that, the disparity between what they wear and what like her husband and her estranged husband and daughter wear, that difference is awesome with the costuming and the character design, the performances, everything that you would talk about just so simply with this film beyond its bigger ideas is so well constructed. And I really like that about Yorgos's films is that he pays attention so very closely to the most basic elements of filmmaking so that even though he's going for it, he's going for all of these absurdist, out there, off kilter, crazy ideas, they're still number one accessible because the audience can latch on to these simple elements of filmmaking, but also they're really freaking fun to watch.
Yeah. I don't think it's the filmmaking that makes it accessible. Plenty of people watch Poor Things. Plenty of people like
Yeah, but
weird
did plenty of
filmmaking.
people enjoy Poor Things?
Yeah. Um, I mean, it, you keep saying it's like I don't think that this movie is really shot like a traditional movie still. It's very odd, the way that
I
it's
guess
done.
I'm comparing it way too almost
Yeah, I mean,
unnecessarily closely to Poor Things just
maybe
because that was
aesthetically on the very
so
surface.
visually striking Poor Things was.
But yeah, I mean, you've got like the credits where Emma Stone just starts dancing in the parking lot. But even
Which
the
was
way that it's
half the
shot, like,
trailer. It was the last
yeah,
scene, second to last scene in the movie, and it was half the trailer.
when you see them, they're definitely shooting some of this stuff freehand. Um, and you can notice they don't try to like make it as smooth as they possibly could. It's a little bit off. And there's
The
especially one scene where it goes in, it starts to like zoom out from Emma Stone, and then it starts to zoom back in.
yeah,
But there's something about the way that it's shot that doesn't feel traditional. I'll have to watch it again, but it's still weird. It's still weird, and it kind of
but
has to be.
that's
It fits
Yorgos
the
for you,
theme.
right?
Yeah, but I also think it fits the theme where it's. I mean, I guess the idea with kinds of kindness is different kinds of kindness, like what you would do for someone else, how much you would do for someone else.
Right,
And
and that
it's always twisting everything. Like Willem Dafoe's character is like, tells him to get out because he won't kill some guy with a car. And he's like, I love you though. And he's like, love? This isn't love. I don't know what this is, but it's not love. If you loved me, you would have done it. But it changes like the emotions into almost weird transactional things. And the second one, she's like cutting off her finger. She takes out her liver to show her love.
yeah, the deliberate breaking of the foot or the toe in the first
Yep.
film,
Hmm.
the cutting off of the finger and removal of the liver in the second film, and then the deliberate slicing of the dog's leg in the third film. Like by the
Yeah.
time we got to the third film, I knew something kind of fucked up and gory and visual was going to happen. I didn't want it to happen to the dog, and I'm glad the dog.
Well, the dog's fine. It got healed by Jesus Christ.
We
Uh,
we know Yorgos is capable and comfortable killing an animal in a film. He's done it
Yeah,
before.
but that was different.
It was different, and I'm glad that this one ended differently. Um, but even when you got something hard to watch, like those three scenes, like I had to I winced at each of those moments. I'm not saying I covered my eyes and ran out of the theater because I don't do that. Um, but it was just you can put something that hard to watch in there and then have a darkly funny interaction like the one you talked about between Jesse Plemons and Willem Dafoe. And that juxtaposition of absurdist, dark, not quite thrills, but visually uncomfortable moments with
Yeah.
the elements of comedy that Yorgos does so well, and he does unlike anyone else. His version of comedy is twisted, like you said, in a way that's different from other filmmakers. Creates this almost back and forth and genre bending that puts this film in sort of its own category.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's surrealism. I've watched enough surreal films to tell you there are plenty more out there just as weird.
I need to watch more surrealist films then.
Just get through David Lynch's films. Watch like a Eraserhead.
Okay.
Yeah, watch a Eraserhead and then come back to me.
I'm writing down all my homework.
Um, but yeah, I just gotta think about it some more because I feel like there's a lot of things that connect. Um,
And I'm sure that there are things that we missed too.
I mean, I made you watch Mulholland Drive, but
Mulholland
it's a weird
Drive,
half the movie is a dream and they spell it out for you. It's done through the way that it's shot. And also there are a bunch of weird things. There's scenes at the diner that are interspersed. And it's really up to you to like think about, okay, what does that mean? Even though these are completely random things, they're still connected to the overall idea, which
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's like perverted love, perverted, kindness. Everything is kind of messed up.
This
Uh,
film is a perversion of kindness, whether that's the relationship between Willem Dafoe and Jesse Plemons in the first piece, whether it's
mhm,
between Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone, I guess, in the second one, and then between Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe and Hong Chow in the third one,
mhm.
and also Emma Stone and her estranged husband and daughter. We're getting three different kinds of kindness, but they're all distorted. They're all twisted just a little bit to where it's not the kindness that we express to each other day to day. Of course, not you and I, we fucking hate each other. But what we see in the film is just different enough from the everyday kindness that it's that sort of filmic escape that we can find in filmmaking to be different enough from our everyday lives.
Yeah.
And I was kidding there, Ben. I don't hate you.
Oh, that's a relief. I still
I
hate
know
you though.
you were really you were worried, and now I'm devastated.
Well, if I'd loved you, I would have cut off my fingers and served them to you.
Well, if I had loved you, then I would have killed that guy with my car. And I'm
But
not gonna say that's why Max isn't here. Max had COVID this week, so he
I
couldn't go
still
to the
gotta
theater.
know I understand the first two, but I just don't understand RMF eats a sandwich. When does
Did
he
you
eat a
not
sandwich?
stay for the credits?
Wait, did I miss it?
In the
Is that the ending?
credits, the ending scene after Emma Stone does her whole dance thing, it's just a shot of the guy who's played RMF the whole movie. Presumably, in the context of all three films, in the connection of all three films, sitting outside a fast food stop at a picnic table, and he's just eating a sandwich and he spills mustard on his shirt. That's RMF eats a sandwich. It's RMF eating a fucking sandwich.
That's great.
It's
I
awesome,
like,
and I'm devastated you didn't stay to see that.
well,
That's why, Ben, that's your homework is to go back to the theater and watch it again to see that scene.
I think I can find it online. I didn't yeah, I didn't know it was like that. Well, it's a little bit weird. I mean, there's three credits.
Yeah,
There's there's a
it's
post-credit scene, and then
it's
there's the
not even a
actual,
post-credit scene. It's kind of an epilogue
yeah.
because the credits start to roll, and then like a minute into the credits after they show all the names and Yorgos's name and all of that, it's back to this outdoor truck stop type restaurant on the side of the road. And he's just sitting there. And it's not as quick as what I just did. It's, like Yorgos does with so many of the shots in this movie, it's a long take. And he's just sitting there. He's enjoying the sandwich. He spills. We move on to the rest of the credits.
Yeah, I gotta think about this movie. It's a weird one.
I do too.
There's an idea there that's cool though. But I like
Yeah,
movies that you have to sort of, puzzle together.
yeah. This one, it's a thinker. It'll make you think.
Yeah.
And like Ben has said the entire time, it's one that you're going to want to see again to piece together more stuff that you missed the first time.
But it's a good one. I liked it a lot.
I did too. Good
I didn't
us.
know how you were gonna react to this one.
No, I come down on the positive side of this one. I'm pro kinds of kindness.
All right. It's
Not
gotten very
sure
mixed reviews, but I think that's just because of how weird it is.
not sure if 6 months from now I'll be saying, hey, in my honorable mentions for the year, hey, in my top five for the year. But I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd. I enjoyed it. It's a good film. I
Yeah,
recommend it.
definitely recommend it. Two thumbs up.
So you can go check out Kinds of Kindness, currently playing in movie theaters. We're gonna see Mia Goth as a scream queen in T West's trilogy finale, Max Scene, three X's.
Yes.
Um, yeah, we're gonna check out a horror movie next week, and hopefully Max will be back. So we will see you for Max Scene next week. In the meantime, enjoy Kinds of Kindness. Let us know what you think. Have a good night.
Good night.